Hey guys, welcome back to another episode building this 1971 Cutlass. I've been working towards getting all the metalwork in the rear of this car all finished up in the last couple of episodes, but I promise in today's episode, we are going to get the entire rear of this car finished up. So if you remember what I was doing last time, I got the quarter mocked up. We still have to do outer wheel well fabrication. I'm gonna get the bumper on right now. I went and got bolts for it so we can get that lined up with the deck lid to make sure all of that fits good. And then once we have everything fitting here and we know all of this fits, we will final weld everything. Now this is an aftermarket quarter, and my experience with all aftermarket panels is they fit terribly. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how this all fits right here, because your bumper comes in and tucks right here. So I'm really gonna be surprised if we don't have to do a ton of modification to the rear of this car to make it all symmetrical and to make it look like the other OEM side. So I'm gonna get the rear bumper thrown on right now, and then we're gonna see what modifications we have to do to make this fit. So let's get started.
Bass, and melody.
So I had my mom come out and help me pretty much mock up this rear bumper. One of the first problems that I ran into was actually it was hitting on that quarter skin that I had mocked up on the driver's side. So I had to pull the bumper back off by myself and trim up that rear edge of the quarter skin. Once that was trimmed up, I could fit the bumper right back up into place, and it fit actually really nice. It aligned really nice with the trunk, and then it also aligned really nice with both sides of the quarter.
Okay, and just like that, rear bumper is on. It is all fitting really nice. It looks really good. You can see if I close the trunk, it pretty much lines up all the way across. But then if you come over here and look, it's pretty tight up against this quarter, and then on this side, it actually pokes out a little bit. That is because the whole bumper needs to shift that way. But this is just the test fit, and I just want to make sure everything fit up over here. And as you can see, it fits up pretty nice against that curve right there. Now that I know the bumper fits and the deck lid fits, it's pretty much time to pull the bumper off. We're gonna pull the quarter off. We're gonna finish the outer wheel well fab, and then we'll pretty much start on getting the quarter welded to the car.
It's like so dance.
And just like that, the rear bumper is back off the car. So that is completely done. Mock-up wise, we are ready to do the final welds on this quarter. So there's a little bit of trimming that I have to do to make it work. I also, off camera, you didn't really see this, I had to modify the bottom of this quarter just so it would fit up against this trunk filler piece. That way I could weld them together. But I'm gonna get all of this pretty much prepped at once, and then we are going to start final welding. So I gotta drill a lot of holes inside the wheel well. I got a lot of cutting and trimming to do on the front and the rear, and then a lot of welding to do all along the top. Let's get this driver quarter installed for the final time. I can't wait to see how this looks, so let's go.
So I actually still had a little bit of fabric to do on the outer wheel well, just on this driver's side. This little lower rear piece wasn't all the way finished up. I had to cut it multiple times to make it fit the shape of the quarter and also the shape of the inner wheel well. In the last episode, I actually only finished up the front of the outer wheel well, so I still had to do a lot of welding in the rear of the wheel well, which I totally forgot about. So I had to mock up the quarter one more time just to make sure everything was correct. You really never can mock it up enough. You want to make sure it's good. You really want to make sure that everything is in the correct spot and everything is happy with where it's sitting, or else you're really going to cause yourself a lot of headaches down the road. So once I made sure that lower piece was where it wanted to be, and I made sure that everything fit correctly and wasn't causing me any issues, it was pretty much time to final weld this outer wheel well. Now, this driver's side was way easier to weld than the passenger side. If you remember, on the passenger side, I only cut out a tiny bit of the quarter because it was just barely that lip that was rotted. and so it was really hard to get to it from the top side, so I actually had to climb inside the wheel well and final weld it inside the wheel well. It really sucked just because all the weld spatter and it was just really tight and hard to see, and really I was just in an awkward position for multiple hours and it just was hurting my body and it sucked. So this was way better. This side was way easier because I was able to just sit in my stool and just in a comfortable position weld the entire outer wheel well.
Right, so dance.
Okay, so last thing that we have to do before I get the quarter on and weld it in place is I need to coat all of this with rust seal. Now, I am going to epoxy this car, but all of this may not get coated, so I'm just gonna put one good coat of rust seal on everything, and then I'll get the quarter mocked up for the final time, and we're gonna start welding it. Okay, the rust seal came out super nice. So what I first did here was I used 8115, which is just panel bond. I coated all of my welds. This is just to seal them up, and also it is structural. So this is to seal them up, and then also it helps reinforce them. So once I got the 8115 on there and spread out, then I used the rust seal, and I pretty much coated everything in rust seal all the way down to where my epoxy really will not get. Now, yes, overspray is going to get all over this, but it does not matter. As long as it's coated and it doesn't rust, that is what you're looking for. So now I'm gonna grab my quarter, we're gonna mock it up one more time, and we're gonna start to weld it on. Alrighty guys, this is it. Entire quarter is all tacked in and we are ready to go. So I'm gonna start on this side and I'm just gonna start welding all the way up, making sure to cool the panel every 3 or 4 tacks. I probably won't do as many as I start to get through here, just because this is gonna be more likely to warp just because it's so smooth, and this is a little bit more of an aggressive curve, so it's gonna be a little bit stronger. So I'll probably do 2 or 3 tacks here and then cool it. But I'm gonna just start up there and work my way all the way back, and then the quarter will be finished.
It always blows me away how much work it is just to do one simple thing on this car. I mean, I'm just doing a simple quarter skin and it is literally so much work to do it correctly and to do it the right way. Everything with these cars just takes so much time, but really in the end, it is 100% worth it. This car is going to be so cool driving down the road, and I know deep down that I built this car to the best of my ability. And like I said before, when doing patch panels on this thin sheet metal, you want to try and keep the metal as cool as possible. Now, a lot of times you can get the metal a little bit hotter. Say if you're on a body line, it's going to be a lot stronger than if you were, say, in the middle of the panel. So as I got to the middle of this quarter panel on the Cutlass, I really only did 2 or 3 tacks and then cooled it just so it wouldn't warp as bad. And then when I was on the body line, I could do like 5 or 6 just because the body lines, they're a little bit stronger and they can take the heat.
Okay guys, quarter panel is on and it is all the way welded up. That was a couple hours at least of welding. So I got this big seam welded up here, also welded down the front right there along that part, and then did my spot welds all in the center. And then what I had to do for the bottom of this just to make this work was I just slid it and then raised that up just enough so it would meet the bottom of that trunk filler right there. Also ran spot welds all along the bottom of this up here and secured it in the rear just like that. So now I'm gonna grind everything and get it all smoothed out, and that will pretty much finish up the quarter patch.
So I just wanted to point out, if you noticed, as I grind the quarter panel, as I grind the welds on the quarter panel, I am cooling the panel. As you're grinding, it's going to be creating heat, and a lot of times that can also warp this thin sheet metal. So you want to try and keep it as cool as possible. Another thing that I did right here is I will turn off the lights and shine a light behind it. That way I can see if there are any holes where I had to weld, and if there are, I just tack them shut and then turn back on the light once I'm done and do a final grind and finish the weld completely off.
So the quarter panel is completely finished. Feels so good to finally be done with the bottom part of this car. Now there is still a ton of fabrication that we have to do back here. You can see there is rust holes, there is fiberglass that we still have to cut out because there's probably more rust underneath it just like that. So there's still a lot of work that we have to do, along with a little bit of work that we're gonna do in the rear window right here. But as for now, the next thing that I'm gonna start on is actually this drip rail. So we decided that we are actually going to shave the drip rails on this car. We're kind of going for a nice sleek look to this car, and I think that deleting these drip rails is going to make it look really nice. It's going to make the roof just flow, and especially with all the other little modifications that we're going to be doing in the future episodes, I think it's going to tie it all really nicely together. So what I'm going to do to delete the drip rails is I'm actually just going to slice right here along this edge. You can see there's actually 2 pieces in there. So there is this lower piece right there, which you can see, and then there is this upper flange right here. So once I cut those apart, it's gonna open up, So I'm gonna have to weld that closed as I go. So I'm pretty much gonna have to re-weld that whole entire edge all the way around, because if I don't, there's gonna be a huge gap right there. So I'm gonna start by pretty much just slitting this off all the way down here, and then we are going to start kind of just tacking it into place, making sure it's tight, and then I will final weld this entire side. This shouldn't take me too long, but this is definitely gonna change the look of the car.
Now for me, this is one of the more exciting parts of building cars. I love doing these little custom touches that make the cars stand out from the rest of the cars. So you're going to be able to see this car from a distance and tell that it has had some custom work done to it. And honestly, stuff like this doesn't take that long. I was probably only a couple of hours on both sides doing this. It's really the same thing with doing the gaps to the car. Doing the gaps does not take that much time. But you have to plan ahead, and you have to do it in metal before you do any epoxy, before you do any bodywork, and before you do any paint work, of course. But it is just one of those things that it doesn't take much time, like I said, but it really takes your build to the next level. Gaps are always one of the first things that I notice when I walk up to a car. Really, they stand out, and I really think it's worth it to do it. It's worth it to put the couple hours into doing the gaps, just because long term, it makes your car look so much better.
Okay guys, check this out. The driver drip rail is completely finished. So I had to slit that seam, pull that piece off, and then re-weld the entire seam all the way around. Let me show you why doing this is a little bit difficult. So you can see it looks pretty good. So I welded all the way along this, and then I had to weld all the way down this A-pillar as well. This came out super nice. One of the big things you want to make sure that you do if you're doing something like this is you have to make sure that this is straight. So looking down it like this, that looks pretty good. And then down it like this, it's pretty nice right there. The problem is if this is all wonky and weird, you're gonna see that. You cannot float any mud right here just because it will break off, and then you're gonna have issues and have to repaint and rebody, and it's never gonna work. So it's best to do this as straight as you can, and that's what I kind of had to take my time and go back and hit a couple spots and grind a couple spots and smooth out and make it look good and make it all just flow together. But this is honestly one of my favorite things to do to cars. I think it's huge and it makes them look so much better. So I'm pretty excited. It's looking really good. All this will have mud that just kind of floats over it, so it flows right off of the top of the roof, and all this will flow back towards the back of the car. But that is pretty exciting. Honestly, that didn't take me too long. It took me about a couple of hours. So I'm gonna jump to the other side and start working on the passenger side now.
And sorry, I really didn't realize how much welding I did in this video. This whole video is pretty much me just welding on the car. But that's kind of how it is. This is just getting through one of the big fab stages of the Cutlass build, and I'm really excited to get on to more exciting things. I've been doing metal fab for the past couple of years. I started on the Chevelle, I've been doing it on the Blazer, and now I'm also doing it on the Cutlass. So I'm getting a little burnt out of doing metal work, and I'm excited to start body work because it'll be something different that I can do every day. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love doing metal work. I love building these cars, but I'm also really excited to start to share some of my knowledge with you of bodywork and how to do that correctly, and how to do it high end.
Alrighty, the other drip rail is completely shaved. This is gonna look so good. I really hope you can start to see kind of the shape that it's taking, but just wait. Once we get this in body work and we smooth all of this out, it's gonna look so good. Now, there's still a lot of work that we actually have to do on the rear of this car. I have to dig all of this old seam sealer that came from the factory out because the people that actually painted this before just mudded over this and it cracked right along that seam. So I'm actually gonna dig this out and weld a piece of metal in here. That way it just strengthens it up a little bit. I also have a couple holes I have to tack that had trim in that we're no longer using, and I have to come and do all of these repairs right here, all along this back. Dig out all of this old fiberglass and then start to do all the modifications to the rear. So we're actually really close to finishing up all of the metalwork on the body of the Cutlass. There are a lot of little custom stuff that we're gonna do. You'll have to wait until the next episode. We are gonna start to do all the custom stuff that we're doing back here. But other than that, the top is pretty much done and the whole back is actually all finished up. So really there's not much more left. I'm hoping in the next couple videos we can get all of the metalwork finished on the body and we can get this thing in epoxy. But I know I keep saying I'm gonna try and make these videos shorter and then they're always so long, so I'm gonna end this one here. Stay tuned for the next one. We are going to finish up all of the rear metalwork, get all of the custom stuff done back there, and then hopefully I'm waiting on one door hinge still so then we can get our doors on and then get the front end assembled. So lots of updates and lots of work is gonna get done on this car in the next couple of videos. So be sure to turn on your notifications and stay tuned for when I drop my videos. And thanks so much for supporting the channel and subscribing, and be sure to leave your comments. Let me know what you guys think about this build. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time on the 71 Cutlass build. Peace out.